Hey everybody, it's me, Dolly,
Me, Juan.
and we have our special guest, Rose, here. Thank you for coming today. We
Hello.
have Rose from Roseland Edibles. We're going to be getting into her story and talk about things, but thank you so much for coming on the Smart Cannabis Community
Thank you for
Podcast.
having me.
This is a true privilege for me. We have so much to talk about, but let's go ahead and let's get to know you a little bit.
Okay,
Tell us
so
about yourself.
just a little bit about me. I am a veteran. I served across two military branches, so the Navy, and I ultimately joined the Army and retired from there. As I was getting ready to retire from the service, probably in 2019. Well, 2019 is when I actually retired, but 2 years prior to that, I realized that I wanted to step back into the world in a more responsible way. And being in the military and suffering pain or having any type of ailments that hinder you from doing your job, it was always kind of like, you're supposed to suck it up and just drive on. Well, as a result of that temperament and that type of rhetoric that was affluent in the military, I was taking a lot of prescription meds that were legally prescribed to me, and I understood full well what they did. I realized that I was codependent, meaning my life was completely different if I didn't take those things. And I wanted to make a conscious decision to step back into the real world without the influence of all of that. As I sat there going through training after training to be able to get out all these, mandatory things you have to do to start your process to retire out of the military. There was a lady, she was from like our what is this? It's the drug and rehab program, and she was speaking to us from her professional capacity. And she stood up there, and she was this very business dressed woman. She was well coiffed and she was well spoken. And she was standing up there telling us about, how people find themselves addicted and how they, it might start innocent. And then once they are in it, it's so detrimental to them, not only their headspace, but everything around them is now at risk, so they end up, hiding it. And what I was listening to was this woman kind of describing my life, because I realized a long time ago, taking medicine coming up through the military, you're taught how to take it enough so that you can be able to get on. By this time, I had blown disc, chronic pain, and just all kind of things going on with me, from a plate and screws in my neck, being 5'2", and being in this man's army, because everything really is still constructed and structured for a man's body.
Right.
And I did all my stuff. I humped my stuff. I wore my stuff. I did everything I was supposed to do as a soldier. But it still doesn't cut the fact that I found myself coming out into the real world outside of being a soldier. And I had to understand that I had a codependency. And so my decision was to retire and to no longer utilize any type of prescription meds.
Wow. So, how long were you in the service?
So I retired right at 22 years and 8 months active duty. And then I have an additional set of time. It comes up to between active duty reserves all together is right at 30 years.
Badass woman right here, y'all. Thank
Definitely.
you for your service. We
Definitely.
appreciate
Thank you for
you.
your service.
I just want to really get into it. I know Juan and I have some questions. I know we had you come out to our network night, and I think that was really great because the people that were there didn't really understand what they were getting into. They're used to going to these events that are just like, here's a bunch of freebies, let's get fucked up, and that's it. Let's call it a night. But people don't really know what they're taking in their body. So it's nice, to have these settings where we can actually talk to brand owners, who are actually making this product, and they have a reason why they're making it. They know who it's for, who it's going to help. Some people don't smoke like myself. So like, that brittle you made us and that granola, oh my gosh, was amazing. Juan couldn't get enough of the granola. I was saying, like, I'm still kind of new with edibles, but I always forget that, it's not food, regular food. So be careful, because I'm just like eating it. It tastes so good. And then I'm like, oh, I'm really screwed up now. I got to take the day off the next day.
The brittle and the granola was
It
great.
was amazing.
Thank
Yes.
you.
So that was really exciting for you to come, but it actually, we got really good feedback from some of the people there. We got calls the next day like, wow, I didn't really know what this was about. I've only gone to, cannabis events in Tucson, and it's just loud music, bunch of vendors, and we get a bunch of goodies, and that's about it. But no one ever tells them like what's in the product, why they made it, how I can get in the business and actually talk to people. Like there's so many people who go to cannabis events that Juan and I have talked to. They want to start their business just like yourself.
Right.
So like how did Roseland Edibles start?
So, Roseland's Edibles started in my kitchen. Um, just literally in my kitchen in Puyallup, Washington. So once I got out, I was free to just create, if that makes sense. And I like to eat. I'm a foodie. That's one of the things I always lead with first. I am all about food prep. I like desserts. I like savory. I like meals. Like I like to eat. And I've traveled the world. I've been privileged to literally travel around the world. So I felt in my soul, I want to figure out things that I can infuse and keep in my kitchen, like things that I like, things that I enjoy. I like to eat lemon bars and, granola, and I like barbecue sauces. And look, in my mind, I'm the best saucier in the world. Okay, I can just make up a sauce. Probably not true, but I give a good
Wingstop doesn't have anything on you.
oh no, they don't. And I'll make sure you know that for real. But what made me what Roseland's Edibles came about because I started to experiment and just be free in the kitchen and make stuff. My daughter-in-law happened to be pregnant at the time with my granddaughters, and she says, "Hey, I want some granola or something that's crunchy. It's kind of like breakfast, but I don't want anything breakfast. Can it be mapley, maybe with some butter in it or something like that? But I don't want it to be breakfasty. I just want that." And I was like, "Okay." So maple syrup and butter is what I heard. So I went in the kitchen, and I'll be honest, it was I smoked a blunt, a nice one, right? Pulled out what I had, and in my mind, I thought I want to make some granola, but I'm making it for her, so it's not going to be infused. Mind you, I'm already in the back with my infusion journey. So I sit down and I pull stuff together. She was, kind of like eating clean a little bit. The butter was the worst thing because you got to use butter and everything. That's how I feel about it. But I took, the things that I wanted to put together, and I used the maple syrup and the butter as my background, and I made her kind of like a breakfast kind of granola bar. And I baked it, and I tried to see how it was. They used to come out really thick. I would let them cool, and then I can cut them down and give them to her. Now, because I'm being really honest, everybody around me at that time, my eldest son was there, my husband, and our family and friends, and they partaked in smoking and utilizing cannabis and cannabis products. So they were there as I finished making them. She came over. She's big. She's like, "I just want, let me taste it." I said, "Come on, sit down." Cut it up, gave it to her, and she's just really eating it. And I mean, she's loving every bit of it, right? So my son is like, "Let me taste a piece." And he did, and they were just tearing it up, just eating it. And then he looks at me and he says, "You need to infuse this," because people would buy it. And so that started Roseland's Edibles. That was the first time I thought about taking something that I had actually created from my own mindset, and I did it. And then another family member said, "Okay, I want a lemon bar. Send them to me." She wanted them infused. And I was like, "Girl, that's not going to work. I don't know how I can do it." I wasn't even thinking about, like, all I thought was it'll go bad. So what's something that I can get to you that'll still be
Preserved.
in good condition? You'll still be able to taste the freshness of it if I seal in the goodness. And I just took the same mindset that I did when I created the maple butter pecan crunch granola. I did lemon. Just I thought lemon and honey, and I went in there again with a nice little backup with a blunt, went in there and I started to create, and it's evolved over time, and it just turned into me doing it more like bulk so that everybody can get it and then they can take it and utilize it however they want it to.
Nice.
I came up with a couple of more flavors. We played around. I wrote a business plan, got an LLC, and the next thing you know, I was in a business that I knew nothing about. Mm-hmm. And it had the potential to flourish and be like this huge thing. And from that process, it made me step back and learn how I wanted to traverse and educate myself in the cannabis industry as best I could.
That's amazing. Yeah. Definitely. When I tasted the granola and the brittles, like, oh my gosh. I couldn't stop eating. And I was like, wait a minute, I gotta put this aside because I'm gonna be on a whole nother level. And I felt good. It tasted good.
I had to tell you to slow down.
Yeah,
I was like, this is not candy like that, or the food. You gotta slow down. This is infused,
It is.
My little kitty got to it.
Oh, but did the kitty sleep? The kitty slept good, didn't it?
Oh yes. I have the pictures to prove it.
Mellow afterwards. Yeah, so I painted myself in a couple of corners, by learning my process. I first realized that people wanted to understand what ingredients you put in it. They wanted you to be able to articulate, how do I use this? How do I dose it or whatever? So I started educating myself from, like an in-home mixologist, if you will. I started educating myself on how to actually get the best yield from my infusion and to understand how strong or how potent my infusions were. Excuse me. So I went out and I looked at equipment like T-Check and things that you can bring home and actually learn to test your own infusions. And it adds value when you're trying to have a business, no matter how small or how big. If you can't articulate what you've put into something, the values of it, and how to actually utilize it to get the full, work out of it, then I think that you're failing. And so you have to educate yourself. If you're going to step in with the best way possible.
Awesome. So I have a question for you. Even though you said you went into this not knowing, what you were doing, right? But the name that you came up with, most people come up with names that fit, but it seemed like just naturally you came up with the name Roseland Edibles, right? So when I think about it, I look at things from a poetic glasses and ear and mind, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. So I see more than just meets the eye. So can you tell us a little bit about the Roseland Edible name? Like,
Okay, so honestly, I wasn't thinking about it in terms of my name, Rosette Land. I met my husband in 2017 at the beginning of the year, and before the end of the year, we were married, right? So his name is Land. And my name is Rose. People call me Rose. My name is Rosette, but Rose is very easy, and remember, and I am a Rose. But anyway, what I wanted to do was kind of combine the partnership and the inclusivity that our relationship is. Yeah. I wanted to kind of bring that together because without me meeting him at a time where I wasn't looking for him, and he showed up anyway and became such a valued part of my life, an integral part of my life, I just wanted Roseland's Edibles to reflect who I am and how it came to be. And I couldn't have got to Roseland's Edibles without meeting Mr. Land.
That is so dope. I knew it was something unique about the name because it just touched me. Now in Chicago, they do have an area called the Roseland area neighborhood. So, it just put so many thoughts in my head and in my mind. I'm like, wow, this is unique.
You grew up there though too, right?
Yeah. Inglewood and in Roseland, in the Roseland area. So
also the play on words, because
yes,
there was a lot of communities, Black communities, that were not necessarily treated the right way, that has Rose in the name.
Yes. Absolutely.
So my name is Rosette, and I feel like I just wanted to have a tie. Another reason is I knew down the line with the way I had my vision of how I wanted this to evolve, I wanted to be able to hit an ink on it and then to, separate all the different things that I want to fall under it.
Yes.
You
And I
know,
understand that too,
Yeah.
because like when I always, people are like, oh, this is my favorite flower. But if you really think about what a rose is, it's like, you got to go through the thorns to get a rose. Like people just buy roses at the store, but don't really know what people go through just to pick those roses. And so for me, like just hearing your testimony and then the inclusivity of your unity of your marriage and what it took for you to get there, from coming from the military, going through your ailments, going through your surgeries, going through the process of who you are, even your life, pillar moments that have brought you down to your knees, and you've had to sprout up with this resilience and keep going because you knew that God had a bigger plan for you. It's like, so it, to me, it's just really symbolic in every single way. And that's really exciting for me to hear, but I think people can feel it and taste it in your
Yeah.
creation. Like,
with
like
love.
with love.
I always say
Exactly.
with love, if you create anything with love, it doesn't matter what it is.
It's not a chewy bar.
It
Yeah.
really doesn't matter because if you're the creator and you're doing this from a place of love because it brings you pleasure. I'm the type of person, I've always been this. I want to feed people.
Mhm.
Even in my military career, I've been supervisors, managers, leaders. I've been all of that. But the deep down rosette in my soul is I want to nurture and I want to feed people. And so when I say I have something for you, if you need something to consume, it's not just that edible food. You understand? It's not just that edible fruit. It is consumption for your mind, for your body, and for your soul. I made that granola because that granola was me coming into the world of this and stepping back into the world and taking off the coat that I was forced to wear for those 30 years.
Right.
Because the reality is in the military, I don't get to be my authentic self. And oftentimes I have to play a wicked game of the things that I will and will not accept as a Black woman traversing that terrain. And sorry, I'm hitting stuff, but it translates into hope. And I'm in the latter years of my life. And I gave this comment to my brother. I said, at the end of the day, when I sit and I look now, I have less days ahead of me than I do behind. And I truly feel like Rosette Elaine Mathis didn't come here for nothing, for no reason, because the things that I have done and experienced and have been able to accomplish or help others accomplish through just being there for them has meant everything. Right.
Definitely.
And
Yeah.
I just feel like, time is a fickle thing. When you get to this stage, all I want to do is provide anything I have to give. If it's of importance to you and it's something that you can consume and take you to the next step higher, I'll be your biggest champion because I want to see grace given,
Mm.
but I want to see a community of us prosper.
Definitely. And like with coming with grace and stuff like that from your transition, navigating what society, labels you as and some of those barriers, like as a woman, a Black woman, a veteran, now business owner in cannabis, can you tell us a story or an incident that you've had to confront to overcome some of those barriers of the society statistics of how they kind of like keep you in this box?
So, one of the first things I realized as I was trying to step into this community was that people saw me how they chose to see me. And as I was meeting people, because I have a knack for getting into rooms and meeting people and talking, that's what the government taught me. I'm a retired counter intel agent. So, it comes natural. I found that they put me in a niche before they even knew who I was.
Mm.
Even though there's a paper right there telling them, hey, I'm retired, I'm this and this and this and this, but they refused to read the writing. And they were like, okay, tell me this. Have you ever been to prison? Do you have a record? Have you ever gone to do it? Like, these are the questions that they insisted on asking me. And I would just sit and politely say, well, I couldn't have had the stellar career I've had if I had.
Correct.
Retired wouldn't be the thing that
Nobody
you would
wants
put.
to read these days. I'm telling you,
Nobody.
and it comes off so insulting.
Exactly. They insist on putting their narrative on top of me. That is the one single thing that has followed me my entire life. Let me say it again. My entire life, because in the military, it was front and center.
Right.
Before the military, in high school and regular life, it was front and center. When I was born to this earth, I was born in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and my mom was brought in by an ambulance, and she was stopped at the door, and they said to her, you need to go in the back.
Wow.
You can't come through the front. So when Rossetti Lane Mathis came into this world, she understood, even if not consciously, she always understood where she belonged.
That's so true. I know this is a huge thing, and like for Tucson, it's like new to everybody. What is social equity? What is black and brown? Like to me, I've gone to all these amazing conventions, $15,000 boost you got to buy, but I'm at these conventions, and I told Juan, I'm like, this is not the industry. This is not what it really is. And this is a bunch of people who are just trying to get a piece of this industry, but they're really not here. Like,
Absolutely.
when we take it back to our roots, and when you talked about having to come through the back door, black and brown people have to work 20 times harder, you know what I'm saying, to not even be recognized.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting to me when I came back home. I've been here for 3 months now, and just really been analyzing for a good about 7 months of what's been happening here. Some of my friends who was a social equity licensee holder, and then they got ripped away. Like, there's no support for social equity here. And it's like, I had to say, Juan, you know what? How are we going to do this? Because, I make the rules. I am the boss.
Mm-hmm.
So I never finished school. I didn't have the luxury of finishing school. My father took me out of school and said, you got to figure out how to pay these bills. You get 16, you can go get a job.
Mm.
I've been in the cannabis industry since I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Agriculture, our roots. So coming into something that's already mine, historically passed down from our ancestors, if you will, why do I have to come through the back door?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I've really wanted to come home and meet with people like you who are intelligent, doesn't matter what background you came from, who is ambitious, resilient, never gives up, and knows that you are here for a purpose to help people, and that heals you through the things that you've been through. Because I believe, they say God gives his, strongest soldiers them heavy measures, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in cannabis here, it's going to be a lot harder for Tucson to catch up. So I've changed my mindset from saying, okay, I got to do it their way. They don't know the way. How can somebody write the way who is barely trying to get a piece of it and then tell me this is how you have to go? You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make sense to me. So, that is just huge to me right there. That's one of the biggest barriers that I think that we as people, doesn't matter if you're black, brown, white, red, blue, unity, this plant comes in all types of forms, heals all types of ailments, all walks of life. I think it's insulting to everyone's intelligence and just insulting to life, period. That we still have to go through these barriers.
Right. Just to have a plant.
Just to have a plant,
That
to have peace, to have healing, to have healthy life, mental health.
Just the same. Just resonate with that.
Yeah.
We just want the same treatment, the same respect, the same grace, the same benefit of the doubt, just the same. We have never come and asked for more. And that's why right now, in light of this atmosphere in this country, the thing to focus on is unity. Yes. Is building within your community.
Yes.
The mistakes I made, I don't want others to make. Mm-hmm. When you're trying to step into this community, build what you have that's tangible and working, build it from within with your circle,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go out, because I kept wanting to find someone who would help me produce it so that I didn't have to do it, because it was just me. And I understood that I needed a team. But in seeking a team or seeking a partnership, more often than not, Roseland's Edibles was being like snuffed out, and just kind of all the things that make Roseland's Edibles what it is, it was like being cherry picked apart. And to me, that just didn't make sense. So my mindset changed from trying to be out and open on some huge platform and trying to, do e-commerce selling and stuff like that.
Right.
My mindset changed to, okay, we have to rebrand, we have to pivot, and we have to pull back, because it's the community. I spent a year, 2 years cultivating and learning and talking to people in this cannabis community. Anybody that would talk to me, I talked to them. I sat down and I tried to consume the things that they were talking about, the things that they were willing to show me how they got to a successful place. Because if I'm nothing else, I'm intelligent enough to understand that if you give me knowledge, you can't take that knowledge away from me.
Right.
And I try to spread that across my community,
Yes.
to all my people. Like, if you learn something, no one can make you unlearn it. And it's up to you how you want to take it, and spread it out.
Yes.
So I would say build your community from within. Don't fall for it. I did the shows. I tried to, spend the money to get to the MJ Biz Cons, to get to all the parties and sit in with all the people. I would tell you what it netted me. It netted me a network of people that see me and allow me to see them.
Yes.
Because if you don't cultivate the relationship and you just go out there handing your cards and shaking hands and giving somebody a cookie, that's a dime a dozen.
Right.
I wanted to cultivate relationships. So the people that I've talked to, that I still have their ear, that I can still call and speak to and ask their advice, they're still there.
Yes.
And I did not become a millionaire with Roseland's Edibles. But here's what I'm telling you. That wasn't the important thing. That thing will come, because what I came here to do is to build a community that's inclusive, that's welcoming, and that everybody touching can prosper. Yes, Black and brown, but this community needs to be built,
yes,
and solidified first.
Definitely.
So, beyond selling products, how do you view your role in advocating for broader acceptance of cannabis, especially in the veteran community? And also, what steps are you taking to break through the stigma on a larger scale?
So I don't know if y'all noticed this or not, but I got a big mouth and I'm always talking. So I retired from a job that's mandated I had to be the cream of the crop and then even more on top. So counter intel had to, the the top secret clearance and all of that. So me stepping out of that, and I was a CW3, a Chief Warrant Officer 3. I have been special agent in charge of many things, here and afar. I've deployed to various places, to include Iraq and Afghanistan. And so me stepping out into this community automatically put a smudge on my name, if you will.
Yes.
Because I was very good at my job. I have awards and, all these accomplishments or whatever, but that was just a job that I did, and I was proficient at it, and I understood the things that I needed to do to be proficient, right? Once I retired, I obligated service. So when I stepped out, I stepped into this big miasma of people who had worked with me previously approaching me or saying things like, "Oh, so you just gonna get out and smoke weed? Like, you should be ashamed of yourself. How are you, letting the government?" And I'm like, "Excuse me, I don't know if you know this or not, but retired means that I obligated service. It means I did everything that I was supposed to do, and I owe no one. I mean, no one. an explanation. And you telling me that you want to continue your miserable existing life, because some of them are miserable and
Yes.
existing in life, because you go from the military straight into another job that just lets you shed the suit but still do the job and have to live under the same
Yes.
stipulations to be there,
Yes.
right? So you're unhealthy. I can show you pictures. I was bloated. My face was just everything. I was just a miasma of ugh. Couldn't really step into the cannabis industry because I wasn't retired. But all that time leading up to, I felt every bit of the vileness sitting inside of my body. I feel like it took about a year and a half of everything to just clear out and for me to just continue using cannabis.
Wow.
And not I'm not veering away from what you asked, but I had to say all of that to say this. If you can walk through that and still advocate for veterans,
Mhm.
then that's what you should do.
Yes.
I didn't skirt away from it, meaning I don't feel no shame. I'm retired. I did everything I was supposed to do. So I stand up and I speak. Do you even know what that is? Do you know that the government utilized cannabis early on?
Yeah.
What is it? Epithylex. They use it for the seizure drug.
Yes.
That and patented.
Yes. We have
Right?
the Ashley's Law in Illinois now.
Exactly. The other thing, do you know the movie Rick Simpson's oil
Yes.
or somebody's oil, Daniel's oil,
Rick
whose ever
Simpson's.
oil it
Yeah.
was?
That art
Here,
so-
hey,
Yes.
you know what that was? That was weed
Cannabis.
in its most potent form.
Yes.
And you
Wow.
put
The
the movie up
strongest.
there, oh, it won awards, and all these little people came out, and they was like, "That's so great. That's weed."
Yes.
Okay, so how can you now demonize weed,
Terminology.
but you got alcohol everywhere? I'm sorry.
Terminology.
You got it
That's
everywhere.
big. I think people don't really understand that. Like Juan and I, when we're doing our sales and trying to get our products out there, and even in the healthcare world, like we've talked to a lot of healthcare professionals, doctors, CEO, nurses. We train them, we certify them. So a lot of that stigma is still there, and they think CBD is just as bad as cannabis, right? And they don't understand what this really does.
Yeah.
Now, 2024,
Mm-hmm.
2025 knocking on the door, they want to know now the knowledge about it, because people are going to them and saying, I don't want that stuff. I use this. So, I understand when you're talking about, that process of over a year and a half that you really had to get all that stuff out of you. You said you were bloated, you couldn't think straight. For so long, I think veterans, I have a lot of veterans in my family. I've had friends who are basically super soldiers who can't even be in society anymore. And it hurts me because I can't really be around them, and they're doing it to protect me and others, right? Because stuff can go really bad. But how do we get people who are maybe not as strong as you, who don't even know where to start? They don't know how to rely on the cannabis, or maybe they don't have access to it, so that way they can get that out. What are you doing for your fellow veterans, some of your friends, like maybe putting in special orders? How are your friends able to rely on you for that consult?
So I have a large community of friends and a connection just across the divide. And one of the ways that I have utilized my voice and what I'm actually doing to help veterans is throughout that community, every one of them has passed my information to someone. Hey, look, my mom just got diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. She's not going to survive. Do you think maybe you can just send her some things and just, educate her and help her take it? Because at this point, we just want her to be comfortable. That's what I do. I have gone to organizations that are, seated in the area where I am. I'm being specific with my words. And I just didn't feel as if what I had to offer was being well received. So for me, I like to, touch the veteran. And so through a community and a network that I built myself, I give information. I it's known that if there's someone that's in need and they're in pain, and this is veteran or not, and they're looking for an alternative, they come to me, you know.
Amazing.
And what I want to do is make it legitimate.
Yes.
You understand? I
Yes.
want it legitimate because that's the only way this world recognizes things. It has to be legitimate. So I want to set the space, which is why I pulled back on having Roseland's Edibles on e-commerce and all of that. I pulled it back, and it will be situated in the space that we're creating. And so when I say step out, market it, and say, I have something that I want to give to the veteran communities.
It's more intentional.
Sign up, come here. And you're going to come here where people that look like you, that have experienced the things that you've experienced, and that are going through it just like you.
Right.
You can come and sit and dwell in this space unaccosted, without, you come as you are, and there's going to be no judgment, because everybody that comes there is coming in a willing space, and they want to try an alternative. They don't want the prescriptions that leave leftover residuals in your body that you can never get rid of.
Right.
They don't want to wake up and have to take something else to counter the symptoms of taking this thing that's supposed to work here and da da da.
Right.
Like, it's just crazy, all the things you have to take to counter this. And then at the end of the commercials for all the little drugs, have you noticed they get a little bit happier at the end? And with a smile, they be like, it may cause sudden death, or you know, so, and your heart might spontaneously blow up and explode. And we not gonna forget anal leakage. That's spontaneous, but you'll like it. Go ahead and get it. You know, it's just crazy.
The truth is in our face.
Right in our
Facts.
face. They're playing
No
in our
one
face,
is
and they're
listening.
telling you, I want a place where holistic medicines and grassroots for your ancestors, my ancestors, how we treated ailments, those treatments all work.
Definitely.
The government,
They can't profit
they
off
can't
that.
look from the minute that the first, what the NSAID, the analgesic, the aspirin,
Yeah.
the minute it came, follow the track.
Yes.
They started to demonize all holistic medicines.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
started to push back.
Mm-hmm.
Other countries still had hemp as like a national, an international commodity. It was
Yes.
traded. A lot of countries work with it because it's so versatile. It can clean up grounds. It can,
Yeah.
turn your farmland fertile again. It can do all these great things, plus
heals.
textile, strength. You can consume it. You can wear it. All of these things. And our government systematically went around to these countries and said, we ain't doing that no more.
Right.
We got this thing.
The
we wanna
nylon
push.
business went crazy after hemp. I was telling Juan about it. I was like, man, if we do this and we do that, because, Juan had a great connection where we were teaching workshops how to build homes out of hemp.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, once you start putting stuff out there and start teaching this stuff, like, you got all these different associations coming after you,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just like, it's so crazy. It's so in your face. Like, we're not listening. We're not hearing. This plant is here for unity. This plant is here for diversity. This plant is pro-life. It heals. It does so many things. It's like full circle, right? So it's just like, people really need to understand what this plant can do. It could literally be for anything.
Yeah, across the
Absolutely
board.
anything. Yeah. One of my really good friends, he's a veteran. He was like, Dolly, I'm having a hard time. Please tell me where I can go get some stuff. What can I do? He's like, I don't want to go talk to a counselor. I can't sit in front of somebody who has not been where I've been, who couldn't even understand like what to sit on their couch and answer their dumb questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I answer my own questions. So it's just like, I feel like with the plant and with you being here, someone who can identify where you've been,
Mm-hmm.
who's been at that very lowest moment in your life when you've had to suck it up and understand what your purpose was again. That takes a lot for somebody to do when you're alone.
Yeah. And when you have PTSD.
Yes.
So in a lot of PTSD, what happens is you feel alone.
Yes.
Even if you're in a room full of people that you know will crush the earth to get to you, to help you. And so I had a kind of a bottom out and a reckoning, right? I retired in 2019. By the end of 19 and coming into 20, we were in COVID. So I was dealing with everything. This business, it was literally like blowing up in my face. I didn't really know, like, I mean, blowing up. Like, people's like, well, can you give me 5,000? Well, can you give me this? And I was like, no, it's in my, like, my kitchen, you know. And then we moved, we relocated to Arizona, and I had all these things that I now had to juggle around in my head, still trying to, you know, get into what I was trying to get into. But what happened is, because I'm the person that takes on all these things, I started to kind of implode. That great question of, like, we have a lot of self-doubt. I'm going to speak about me as a veteran with PTSD and then dealing with just regular life. So we bring a lot of issues on. I'm a type A personality. I own it. I felt like I had this insidious thing that was like, you're not doing anything. You are sitting and just smoking and you ain't doing nothing because you can't see the good that you're
intaking,
bringing about. You're falling into this dark thing, and that's what PTSD is. That's a part of that post, you know, traumatic stress and all of the things that come around, anxiety, you know, extreme hypervigilance, or you have the you know, you just put yourself in positions where you are more at risk to be harmed or to harm yourself. So I never had an ideation with not being alive. Never. However, I've been in dark places where I've had to question why I'm alive, if that makes sense. I understood that for me to take that final step into the abyss would be to hurt my family and to leave them wanting, aching, and hurting. I know that feeling. I know that feeling from losing fellow shipmates and fellow soldiers, fellow battle buddies, to suicide. You know, I know the feeling. You feel inadequate. You feel like, how come I didn't see this when I'm talking to this person? And then you feel guilt and you feel anger and then you feel it all over again and you have no place to put it, right? You have to find purpose to battle the darkness. That's the best way I can put it. And you have to acknowledge its presence because it's always there. You have to understand how you will allow it to control your life. And through my family, through the support I have, through me being, you know, just this emotional mess, 2020, 2021, and 2022 were so difficult. Like, I was literally feeling like I was being pulled apart and remade, you know, from my fabric. You know, it was, you know, there was times where I was looking at people like with suspicion, and then it was like, what are you doing? There's none of that here. You're safe. You know, and the thing is I'm such an internal person that I'm very good at the facade. Because I am a nurturer, because I want to help, I pour myself into those things and I forget about my things. And so it's like a very tight rope. But if you understand how you need to get across, there is no other choice. You need to get across. Then that's what I utilize to pull myself in. And that's the energy I try to send out when I see, you know, a brother or a sister that's struggling. And I don't mean brother and sister that looks like me. I mean a brother or a sister that's struggling. Because believe it or not, I have people in my life that I've met in the military. They never met someone like me. I know I'm alive. And they have different views, complete different views, and look completely different. But when they struggle, or when I struggle, they know for a fact that I will answer the phone for them.
Yeah.
And I know for a fact, regardless of all the bullshit, that they'll answer the phone for me too.
Right. It's a and that's why it's like I'm not a veteran. However, like from my, walk of life, when I first heard you, tell your story when we were talking, it brought me something really relative and familiar to what I had to go through growing up and navigating this world. PTSD comes in all forms, but I have a lot of friends who served, and I'm a great person to talk to, easy to talk to. I can sympathize, I can understand. Juan is too, his family is military as well, but I see in the industry there's not very many spaces for them to just be.
Right.
And instead of like, having photo ops and, oh, we're going to have the press come over here. Here, let's take a picture with the veterans and all right, we're out of here. Like, I hate that.
Yeah.
And so it's very special to me that you're in this space to have one of their own who they know, like you said, I'm going to answer the phone. They know that they're going to answer the phone for you. It's nice to see those who have that resilience and have the will and know their purpose and now transitioning, even though maybe you're still going through what you're going through or might have those moments in your, everyday life, that you're a testimony. And it's amazing and inspiring that they can see that maybe I'm not going to do what she does, but I know I can do something. Because I know, like what you said, feeling like you're not doing anything. So then you feel useless. You feel like you're not being productive. You feel like
imposter syndrome.
Right. And so, it's interesting, like even just, when I came back home in 2011 and got out of prison, and I was just, even before that I was a drug dealer. Come home, got to change my life around, got to advocate and go even harder for the things that, this plant took away from me that is now legalized for. I really sympathize with you because all I know is go, 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 execution plan. This is all, there's no other choice, or you're going to die or you're going to be in prison. Right. And so, thank you for contributing to the veterans. Thank you for being a big voice and putting power behind it. You're very inspiring to me. I sympathize with you on so many levels, and we can keep talking and talking. And I know Juan can too.
Yeah. Because you touched on a lot of things today, but I had to hold myself back because, her right here, she's real structured. So
I like that because she'll pull me in.
I grew up with a military father. So structure is really all I know. Go, go, go. I have a hard time. Like, I was in the entertainment industry and was more of the person giving the service than buying the service, So like for me, it was a hard transition until I had my moments of crisis and going through my health ailments and stuff that I actually had to rely on this plant. And so, like, Juan's mother, you want to talk about your mother?
So my mother, she served in the Navy. She was active duty. Once she completed active duty, she switched over to the Army. My dad was in the Marines. So I was born on Great Lakes Naval Base, and then she put me in the Naval Sea Cadets. However, they always had me on military time in that house. So everybody thought that my parents was mean, but they was cool. They just had me doing certain things and giving me the tools that I needed so that I could make it in this life, right? So she told me that we live in Rome, so as they do in Rome, so there's you. So you have to learn and understand this world so you can know how to maneuver. Right. Yep. So, but until you learn to understand that, you got to do as the Romans do.
Yeah, that is the absolute truth,
So my goal for all of us, and in partnership with you guys and being a part of the community, especially for Cochise County, I want people to get the word out about who you are, your mission. I want people who think like you and feel like you and understand their calling like you can come together in unity and help our communities out. I think so, back to like when I was talking about the conventions and going, and I'm like, I was like, wow, this is not my industry. We have to create our industry.
Yes.
We know what we need. We know what we don't have. So why do we keep trying to go to a system or industry that was not built for us? It doesn't even make sense when you're actually into day-to-day operations, and you know those phone calls you're getting of people asking, hey, can you make this? She's going through this, or he's going through that. Why are we even relying on that? It's good to get it out there, but I think your business is going to be such a legacy and here even after, because of how you are navigating. It's super intentional.
Very. And well, you have to be intentional because, before I came out and I was scattered. That's just the truth. I found myself in the business because I get into rooms and, I guess I'm a little charismatic, or something like that. I don't know, but people generally speaking, they don't mind the tone of my voice, and they can understand that I'm passionate because I'm a passionate person, right? So one of the main things, if anybody out there watching and you take this away, one of the main things that Rosette wants to be is, I want to be the individual working on the change that needs to happen.
Yes.
And I want to be in the back pushing that. And so, I have a space in Sierra Vista, Arizona, that I want to turn into a very inclusive place where people can come and be met where they are. That makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then bring those in. I can't educate on everything. I'm not an expert in all, but I kind of get a little bit of knowledge about just about anything. But what I can do, if I can't effectively give it to you, I want to bring those in, let them have that space, and they can teach and educate and be comfortable in their own skin, understanding that everybody there is there for the same purpose. So no judgment zones, just being able to be free without someone trying to push you in front of a camera, because I don't want you to come if you think we're going to be on the camera and all of that. No, this is about a personal journey. I'm not saying that people that film themselves giving money to people are bad, but what I'm saying is, I don't need that.
Right.
I just want to help. I'm not knocking them, but I don't need the camera. This right here is what I want to generate people coming and saying, hey, I have something I can add to it, because understand, work needs to be done.
Yes.
There's nowhere in the world you can get something for nothing.
Right.
What I'm telling you is, you're allowed and free to come, but you need to come intentional.
Mm-hmm.
You need to come understanding that we are working diligently to build a space for us, our own space. We're not asking for a seat at the table. We're building the motherfucking table that we want to fit at.
It's all about self. And before we get into the next question, I think that's what really brought me to you. When I found you on LinkedIn, I think you had liked something, and I went like, "Who is this?" I went and looked at her profile and stuff, and read her bio, and I was like, Juan, look at what she's doing. So when I say build our industry, it starts with self. So the fact that I'm learning, and we all learn by trial and error, right? Mm-hmm. But what I'm learning that is the most successful, because our goal is to help people. Our goal is to wake our people up and educate them and heal them, and have generational wealth and a legacy here for our grandchildren, great grandchildren, and to even live long enough to enjoy them, right? But it starts with self. So for you created something that's your journey. Something, like you said, there's work got to be done in everyone's life. So if everyone just focuses on self, mental health, awareness, putting into things that you're passionate about, seeing the need that something needs to be fixed here, or something needs to be provided that's not, I think that's how we can all just kind of like plug into each other. Right. And we'll be able to contribute to what is on our journey, right? And that's what's so unique about you. So I'm really excited to see what you're going to do in Sierra Vista. How can people come and contact you? What do you want to look for people to come and plug into what you have been building?
So I'm in Sierra Vista. I have rledibles.com. There's a blog portion there. I'm getting ready to kind of pull it out and take everything else off of it, right? And then it's just going to be the blog. My ask for this community is, if you want to come down to Sierra Vista and add to what we're building down there, then what I want to do is welcome. I'm looking for expertise in greenhouse. I'm looking for experts in growing and being able to feed a community, because I can grow whatever you can think of, the space and all of that. I have it. I might touch a plant and it just shrivel up, but you have the ability to grow a plant. I have the space, and I'm telling you, I will loan it to you for the betterment of this community. And it's indefinite as long as we're pouring into the community. Imagine
Yes.
a
Powerful.
person that loves planting, and I know I have space for that. You come down there, hook a crook, we'll figure it out. We'll get the
See?
sponsors, we'll figure it out. I don't have the know-how, but I have the space, I have the heart to give, and I have the trust that we can build this into a community, because we can pull dry food from Sierra Vista straight up here to Tucson
Yes.
and give it.
Yes.
You know, we can have open events where we invite the community, give them a specific invite, bring them in, and let them see what we're building. And if they have consumables, they're more than welcome to join on and help us solidify the foundation of the community we're trying to build, because you got to be able to eat. Land is a tangible thing. We have it and we're growing nothing on it. And we're turning it into a space. And to me, you can have a farm on an acre.
Yes.
And that
all
acre
it
can
takes.
feed more.
365 days.
You understand? And I'm just saying, look, hey, hit me up. RLedibles.com.
So what advice would you give to someone looking to start their own edibles brand or enter the industry?
Learn the compliance procedures. If there is a certificate or any type of validation type license or anything like that that you need to get it. Meaning, if you're going to do it in your house, you get the cottage food program, and it is ever changing in this state. So you have to be on top of it. Compliance kills. Compliance. It kills. If you want to move into this industry, you need to move into it in a legal way. So it's going to mean smaller, more intimate, but more specific, with the ability to grow better. And then pay it forward. Don't always have an ask from people that you're not willing to give yourself, because that comes off as predatory in nature. If you're giving freely, give freely. But if you're going to learn and step into an industry, don't go for the first shiny penny, because you'll spend money and you'll have a story like I have. I'm not the only one. Everybody that's trying to step into this industry has a story where they was like, oh man, they look like me, they sound like me, and they like, yeah, girl, I want to do it. And then you give them the money and you like, hello, hey,
Anybody there?
you gonna answer? And they come back and be like, girl, look what I got for you. And you like, that's just a piece of paper.
Yeah.
What is that? Is that where my money bought?
Yeah.
And you learn a lesson really quick, because you don't get no refunds.
Yeah.
Man.
You don't get refunds.
So how do you maintain a work-life balance, especially in such a fast-growing industry?
Literally, me entering into this industry is my life, right? And what I've learned, we hit on, falling into a dark place. What I learned is the same effort I put towards building what I want to see happen in the industry, or the things that I want to give to the community, I learned that I need to pour into myself the same equal way, and be okay with it, because I don't owe anyone anything, and I can't give anyone anything if I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And in order for me to do what I need to do, you literally have to take care of yourself. You don't allow people to demand your time. You set a structure, you set it, and you leave with it. There's no reason to be jumping up, answering a business call at 12 midnight. because if they couldn't get you before then, unless you out, and that's where it is, you have to learn abstinence.
Yep.
Mhm.
You have to learn patience.
Yes.
And you got to learn how to get the sight, as my granny would have said.
Yes.
You need to be able to look at them folks and be like,
I see through you.
I hear what your mouth is saying, but let me take a peripheral around what you're actually doing.
It's not adding
I
up.
like to look at people, kind of analyze them. You're on social media, I'm on social media. My life is wide open. As soon as I got loose from the government, I saw an opportunity to put myself out there unapologetically and say, this is me, and what you see is what you get. Now, if you're the same, then we're good. But if you're not, I'm going to see it.
Yes.
You can't stand up in my face and tell me I'm for social equity. I love it. Oh, it's inclusive. But when I follow your history, I see that you're in every other room that I'm not allowed in. So how can you then be for social equity when you're doing this over? I see you.
Yes.
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 You know what I'm saying?
So, and it's crazy that you say that, right? I've always been told by my mother, history repeat itself. Nothing new under the sun, right? And so when I look back in history, this is why history is so important. When you look at the prohibition, right? It was illegal. Then they legalized it. Then now you have a family, which is Green Thumb's industry, Ben Kovler. His great grandfather ran the bootleg liquor for Al Capone. So he understands prohibition.
He understood the assignment.
He understands the assignment. Then let me take it back even a little bit further. You had the Jones brothers that moved from St. Louis to Chicago, and they created it was known as the policy. They ran everything from, they had Bumpy Johnson in New York. Everybody had to come through Chicago through them to do the policy, but it was illegal. But then when they took it from us, because Al Capone enforcer pillaged the neighborhood, kidnapped one of the Jones brothers, held them for ransom, and then they turned over the policy to them. Then next thing you know, the government legalized it and called it the lottery. So for those that don't know, it's always illegal if we create it, if social equity created. But remember, we have to go through the struggles, right? And that's how we was able to create things like the policy and eating chitlins and creating these different types of meals, right? And it's the experience, and we didn't have nobody. People was the families, the mothers had to have sex with master just to protect the husband and the kids, so they don't get killed. But just move right on. Because you guys kept touching on it, and it was just, I needed to get that out, because
but I think that's what's so important, that here I see in Tucson, no one is awake to what social equity is. And for me, somebody who comes from agriculture, logistics, transportation, distribution, all of that, who understands the actual business, now that it's legalized, I have to work hard just to get in something that's legalized now. Right. That I've already known and mastered. And now people who don't know nothing about this business are trying to tell me how to do it. And so it's like, it just blew my mind. And I've had to work super, super hard. So like having to get my record expunged. I couldn't just get my record expunged because it wasn't a state case. It was a federal case. That's a whole different process. And so, Juan and I, co-found Soul Point. And so we work heavily with social reform. Social justice is really important. It's a legal thing to have expungement. This is a resource for anybody, no matter what color of your skin, is there for you. But because we're not all lawyers and don't maybe know our rights, we will get told by law firms or attorneys who work for law firms that you cannot get this expunged. This specific charge, you cannot get this expunged. And it's a lie. Bold-faced lie. Anything really can be expunged except for rape charges and stuff like that, which we understand. We don't really want that gone. But what is so crucial, this attorney told me, Dolly, we can do that. It's just, if I owned my own law firm, I would be able to do that. the person I work for, they won't allow us to do it because then he'll be looked down upon his colleagues, his circles, his associations that he's tied into. They don't want to do that. And so Juan and I was invited to an expungement event in Chicago. Juan was able to receive those services himself. And then, as being in the cannabis industry and having our business Smart Cannabis, we went to another expungement event from this new group that we never heard of. But one of our social equity partners was, one of the sponsors. So we're like, okay, we're going to go. We took Bob Fioretti with us. He was running for state's attorney in Chicago. And that's a whole crazy story in itself. But when we went, we had invited so many people, like over 120 some people that we had invited. And maybe like 70 of them showed up. We're at this library, room full of people. No one's getting seen. You got vendors there, vendors giving free food and stuff like that. No one's touching it. We're not here for the photo op. We're really here. People took our time to call off work or almost lose their job, or did lose their job, because this was their chance to get seen and get something done so they can get that better job they really need. So no one was seen. They took the data.
Yeah, that's it. It was a data game.
While social equity is so huge in other states for the licensing options for cannabis, what is happening is these MSOs are hiring these law firms to collect data, so that way when they do the social equity lottery, they go and hit up every single person on that data list, offer them $10,000 to $200,000 to kick rocks once they get that license. Yeah. And so no one's getting the record expunged though. So we had a lot of phone calls. Juan's phone's blowing up, my phone's blowing up. And they're like, we've still haven't talked to nobody. I said, okay, we got to do something here. So with my experience here in Arizona is different than Illinois. Again, but mine was a federal case. Way, way harder to do. Federal exonerations is way, way hard. It's a longer process. You got to really show that track record. You got to really be out here, change your life and helping others to change theirs. Illinois state, it's easier to get done. So we ran into a man named Josh, and he's like, I love what you guys are doing. We can do this ourselves. I said, Josh, Juan and I really want it to be intentional. We really need to help our people. And so successfully, we've been getting people's records expunged.
And impacting lives.
And it really impacting lives. So bringing that here to Tucson and Arizona in general, we are going to be hosting. We already had one clinic. We had 17 people show up. One of them is a federal case. And that's a harder process. But even with that, like, it's still a pause. So, just for people to change their lives and stuff like that, don't let nothing stop you. We have to create our own industry. We have to reinstate trust within our community and have healing, self journey, but we all can plug into each other to bring more energy that's going to manifest into these things and overspill into our communities. Exactly. And so, that's one of the things. But for you, what do you think has been the key to your success so far? And what do you look forward to?
My willingness to speak up, my willingness to, utilize a platform, because if it just opens up beside me, I'll look and be like, okay. And I'll step in and start talking, and I'll ask the questions, and I'll ask what the program is going to be. And because we were down in Sierra Vista, there wasn't a lot of up close exposure in Cochise County that I'm able to affect, because Cochise County it's not built like that yet. But what I said was, I'll just get friendly and get into the community in different ways and aspects, which you have to understand what the community is doing and where it's going in order to insinuate yourself into it. And I said insinuate, because that's what you need to do. You need to make the opening yourself and get in there.
Yes.
Right. So I'm in terms of people understand that I'm not the average bear. And the thing that you insist on superimposing on me is just not true. And in about a couple of seconds, we'll already have that flushed out. And I'll be like, we good? Can we move on? Now, what you doing for the veterans? You know what I'm saying? So I would say keep your voice. I speak up. And I want to build the organization because for me, the organization that I see that's needed in the county where I am and where I have the space that I want to bring to the community, it doesn't exist. And so I want to be the catalyst to getting that community down there solidified. And I got a foundation for them to, start right on.
That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here and being you and being your voice. Juan, do you have any questions or closing statements?
I just want to say that you have a unique, powerful story. Again, I had to hold myself back from, wanting to intervene and say some things that you touched on. Like when you spoke on that, they're right in the industry. You said it too. They, right in the industry or talking about an industry that they really don't know or have an idea about, right? And I noticed as well too when we participated in those conventions, right? And they're taking it somewhere. It's like a show pony, right? A dog and show pony show. And forgive me, I know when I was selling drugs, it was immoral. It was an immoral business. However, I learned from that, right? So in professional terms, right? I'm gonna show you. When I was on the street, I was selling bags, right? So I understood import, export, geographical location, unionization. If I didn't understand none of that, I was either going to jail or get killed. However, I'll run circles around these MSOs because they think just because they got a product that it's going to sell itself. Not true. But I'm not going to give you the sauce. You got to go ahead and come to me the correct way. But I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to hear your story and allow others out there to hear your story as well. Because like I was always told, I listen to music because I'm trying to find out a solution to get through a problem because, people use what they know about you to hurt you. And so we fight a silent fight.
Yes.
Exactly. And usually we have to come out and say, look, this is me. Full transparency, because I know you're going to dig up my ass anyway. So I'm going to tell you before you go looking for it because it's not going to hurt me. I tell people when I grew up, there was a time where I had no love for myself. Those are facts because the actions that I was doing, I was young and growing up, I had no love for my body. I had no love for myself. I was just trying to feel, if that makes sense. I understood with my mind where I wanted to go, but I wasn't mature enough to effectively do that. And so I stepped out and I was reckless in the way I handled myself. But once I understood the value and the importance of loving oneself, it showed me who I was going to be. And just taking the control and the power over yourself. And the last thing I will say is never allow anyone to paint their narrative on you. Because you work really hard trying to be what you think they want you to be, and you miss all this time and all this life when you realize, damn, my authentic self is cool as shit.
Live for yourself.
And it should be a privilege and an honor for you to sit with me.
Hello.
Okay? Take that and walk with it. All day, every day. And remember, it's not about getting in the room. It's how you walk into that bitch.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There it is. One more question. Say you for individual, right, that's standing on the brink of the river, right? And they're uncertain and unsure, but they know deep down in their spirit that current on the other side is their breakthrough. What should they do?
Sit your ass down and look at that thing, analyze it, and figure out how to get across it. That's it. Go get a boat. Go find somebody to get you the route that you need. And if they won't get you the route that you need, 9 out of 10, they've already done it.
Yes.
Go and emulate and make it your own.
If somebody tells
Facts.
you no, you're talking to the wrong person.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to be the person to create the yes because it's not been created yet.
All
So,
kind of no's happen.
yes.
Just need one yes.
But say yes.
Say yes.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much. Appreciate you
My
very
pleasure.
much.